Who's ready for their Brandon Aiyuk morning update, huh?
Courtesy of Ian Rappaport.
Will he get
NFL
traded?
Network.
Will he not get traded? I don't know. So last week, the latest update was that the Browns and the Patriots had agreed on framework deals for Brandon Aiyuk. And part of that framework is him signing a new contract extension at the age of 26. And he needed to approve and say, I'm willing to go to those two places. And then you get the reporting that New England has said, you know what, we don't really want him, which means that Brandon Aiyuk said, no, I don't want to go there. And then there was a report that Cleveland had agreed on the trade and that he needed to agree to go to Cleveland. And Brandon Aiyuk again said, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to Cleveland. I don't want to go to New England. And this has gone over well in Cleveland because Amari Cooper was the guy that was tied into these negotiations as going back to San Francisco. And he then sent out basically a cryptic Instagram post that was like, sounds good to me. Like, yes, I'd love to go. Can we do this? Can I go play for the 49ers? Whether you trade me for Brandon Aiyuk or not. So that's a great sign in early training camp that, hey, we wanted to trade you. Just kidding. We're going to keep you because Brandon Aiyuk doesn't want to play with Deshaun Watson. Well, the latest reporting yesterday came out that the Steelers and the 49ers have agreed in framework on a deal for Brandon Aiyuk. However, Brandon Aiyuk has not signed off on it yet, and the 49ers have not fully signed off on it yet because they are still trying to reach a long-term contract extension. And there was some reporting on the NFL Network yesterday that said that Brandon Aiyuk ultimately, this is now finally coming out, he wants to be a 49er. He doesn't want to be traded. He wants the contract that he demands. He does not want to be traded. And he's hoping that this continued negotiation will reach the point where they get to the money spot that he wants. Almost all the other details are figured out. I'm assuming they're just hammering out over total guarantees or, all those little specifics in the financial details of a contract that he wants that he has not gotten yet. And so the Niners haven't agreed on this trade because they still think that they can ultimately sign Brandon Aiyuk to an extension. What I would say for him, and I will end up being wrong on this. My money's been on him getting traded the entire time. It makes sense. They got all these big contracts. They got to pay Brock Purdy. It's hard to keep everybody in the fold. And we saw this. I used the analogy earlier. We saw this with the Legion of Boom in Seattle. That ultimately there are going to be cap casualties. You cannot pay everybody. But Brandon Aiyuk, if he elects to, I'm assuming, take a slightly downgrade in pay to stay in San Francisco, would be making such a smart career move over going to Pittsburgh. And this is coming from somebody who respects the hell out of the Steelers. I am a huge Justin Fields guy, and I hope that he pops and has a great year this year. But it's like, would you rather play in that offense or in San Francisco? Would you rather play with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields or Brock Purdy, who has only gotten better in his 2 years in the NFL?
And an offensive mastermind as your head coach.
Yes, and to me, this is an absolute no-brainer if they can find a way to get it done. The Steelers' offensive coordinator is Arthur Smith, and as high as I am on the Steelers, he is my biggest concern because let's not act like the guy did a great job in Atlanta getting all of his weapons involved. That's why, other than not drafting a quarterback or finding a quarterback, he ultimately ended up getting fired. So that's your offensive coordinator that you would go play for. And I think if you're Brandon Aiyuk, man, there's a problem of people always thinking the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And I used Devontae Adams as an example last week in talking about this of how do you think he's feeling in Vegas right now? Dude was playing with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay where they were competing for a title every year. And then the documentary comes out on Netflix, Wide Receiver, where he insinuates that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get him killed. He's so bad because he can't hit him in the chest when he's going over the middle, and he misses him on wide open deep shots, and he's a miserable human being. Yes, he got paid. He is a miserable human being. Do you want to be John Rahm and make a little bit more money, or do you want to be the guy that's still playing on a tour that matters and playing for the team in an offense that fits you? And it seems like this is going to ultimately lead to an extension being reached, but We'll see how it shakes out.
Well, and the tricky part is whoever is advising Aiyuk, I don't know who his agent is, if it's Rosenhaus or somebody else, but this is a tricky game of poker he's playing.
Yes.
He's trying to play both sides to get the best deal, but these are two organizations that will at some point, they are organizations that say the organization is bigger than any one individual, no matter how good you are. 49ers traded Joe Montana.
They did.
The Steelers have, they've gotten off of guys before. It's about the Steeler way. So they will reach a point, and I'm guessing it is very soon. It's like, hey, We've done everything we can. You got to make a decision. Is this good enough for you or not?
Yeah.
And we're moving on.
Yeah.
And he could get left with absolutely nothing. It's like, just play out your contract then and go hit free agents.
Or we'll tag you next year. We don't have to do this. Yeah, but they don't even have to trade him if they don't want to. You don't want to show up, don't show up. That's fine.
So I feel like it's getting right to that point, and whoever is advising him needs to sit him down and say, this is the best you are going to get from Pittsburgh or San Francisco.
Yeah.
You got to make a decision. Here's what we think you should do, but this can't go on into the weekend, or the rug's going to get pulled out from underneath you.
The interesting part about it from the Niners angle, too, is they have seemingly been open to the idea of trading him, but part of that on their end has been getting something of value in return at that position. As I mentioned with Cleveland, they were going to get Cooper in return in that deal. If they did the trade with New England, Kendrick Bourne likely would be heading back to San Francisco. Shout out to Milwaukee High School. And so, like, you're getting at least a valuable piece that you can plug into that offense, and they're not Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think anybody would argue that, but at least there's still value there. That's the part about the Pittsburgh trade that I look at for them, and I'm wondering, what they don't have. They're not trading you George Pickens. You're not getting that. Go look at the rest of the wide receivers on Pittsburgh's roster, man. There's not a lot there, and so you're not getting that valuable piece on the outside.
And
back.
I haven't seen what the framework of the draft equals. Maybe there's some draft picks.
I'm assuming there's draft picks that are involved, but the Niners, I think, are still in a win now mode, right? Like they're trying to strike right now. And so that's where that deal has always been kind of funny to me. I get why Pittsburgh wants to make that deal, but if you're San Francisco trading him to Pittsburgh, you're not getting necessarily, unless there's a third team or you figure something else out. They don't know what Ricky Pearsall is going to be. He's out right now. He's not a part of training camp. And so you're going to have to figure out who that other wide receiver is going to be. And so that trade hasn't made a lot of sense from San Francisco's angle. But I get why Pittsburgh's making a move there. If I'm a Steeler fan, I'm happy they're being aggressive. But the Niners ultimately are the ones in control of this situation. And it seems like the tea leaves now are reading they're going to reach an extension. I just hope this thing comes to an end sooner rather than later. This is the story that won't go away. The holdout that will not end between Brandon Aiyuk and San Francisco. We've been talking about this basically all summer, and we're at like the 2-yard line. Are we there yet? Who the hell knows?